welcome back to Comic Book Wednesdays, a somewhat monthly series where we discuss comic books. We're your hosts. I'm Ian.
And I'm Shane.
We're back with more Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters!
Woo! Do you know the issue numbers?
Would you say, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
The issue numbers that we're doing? Because like, I just kind of read the books you tell me.
No, that's totally fair. I believe we are on 10, 11, 12.
Fun. So, overall, I'm enjoying this series. But with that said, I do have a gripe with these last three issues.
Yeah?
And and correct me if you guys think if you disagree, like voice it. But I think these last three were, and even the one from our last grouping as well, which ever since they've gone on the road, very repetitive. It is. Absolutely fair, Al. I'm not.
You're not
Okay.
dissing the stories, it's the format.
Yes, yeah. I'm having fun with it. I have to say, like, if I was binging these comics, I would have gotten bored. Um, but because we're breaking it up, it didn't hit like that for me because I wasn't over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, if you look, it's Ghostbusters show up to town. Ghostbuster interacts with random person we probably won't ever see again. Ghostbusters see the ghost mess up maybe once, then they regroup themselves, show up, capture Ghost, end of issue, and it's
Hmm.
been that for the last four comics.
Yeah, very villain of the week.
Yes, and so it works for some shows and stuff. Like, I get that. Um, I would be very disappointed if I was buying comics weekly or monthly. I apologize, waiting a whole month for something and then essentially getting the same story reskinned. But I mean, it happens in comic books, so it's not just this. I'm sure other comics do it too. It just, I noticed it by the time I was done this. I was like, okay, well, I'm glad they're no longer on the road trip because I was genuinely enjoying it more when it felt like a story arc spanned over a book or two books or three books.
Hmm.
This felt like I think there's an overarching story that it was like road trip. Road trip was the story. It felt like, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there'll be more like interlocking things as we continue. I would really hope so. Um, I don't know. It feels like they kind of just strung us along just to see the Ghostbusters in places that weren't New York.
I can understand that. It's, it reminds me a little bit, like, with that same realm of, like, kind of criticism. It reminds me of when you're doing any kind of like academic thing with college, like back in the days of college papers, and
Hmm.
you knew you had to analyze something, or like you're like, oh god, this paper that I'm working on, it's too short. Let me just rinse and repeat and expand on some shit. And the stuff that you're expanding on is just pointless shit, but you're doing it to hit that page length. And
Yeah.
like, um, the the thing that really like I enjoyed. So like I like the concept of them going to other places. I hope they do that more in the future because, like I said, I have no idea if they will or not. But the New Orleans one was, I felt like, the most true and the most accurate. Aside from the fact that they gave Egon that little like thing of Grigri, because for whatever reason, like I'm assuming that's going to come up later as like, you know, insert MacGuffin here, but um, just the accuracy of how they depicted like some, and I don't know much about voodoo because like it's a very close practice, but the accuracy of what they depicted was at least interesting to me, like in the mentioning of historical characters. Oh yeah? I don't think I caught it. Can you
Oh, because
lay it on me?
the dancing zombies.
Oh. Ouch.
I did. I actually missed that. And it's funny. I was actually thinking of another reference, and like, this might just be me. Did
Mm-hmm.
anyone think that the gentleman that was helping the older woman in that, I forget her name. He kind of looked like Lando, like the guy who plays Lando Calrissian. And oh well, Lando is a scumbag, so. But yeah, he kind of looked like him. And I wonder if that was their attempt, like, hey, like if this was a Ghostbusters movie, who would we cast? You know?
That's fair. That is fair. On that same vein, I did get the whole like Mulder and Scully vibe from the Roswell one.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you had the one who was just like kind of super logical and is like, "Hey, we should let the professionals handle this." The other dude who's just like, "It's aliens."
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They were definitely spoofing them and making fun of that show. That was a good one. I like that as well. Um,
I did like in that episode because like I was really curious how they were gonna do the whole like ghosts and aliens thing. And I liked how they settled on, like, they were like, okay, well, it's the ghosts, but it's the ghost of the people who worked there who saw something so messed up that this is what their, like, spectral forms looked like because they were just so traumatized by whatever the hell they looked at.
yeah,
It's like, that's a pretty decent explanation.
so they're not saying like there are no ghosts. They're just saying these aren't them. I mean, no, there are no aliens. They're just saying these aren't the aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are not the aliens you're looking for. That's pretty good.
So it will be remembered.
They were. No, like I get that. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't have like their charms because they did. I mean, the I think the character work in all of them are great. Like I think you see each member of the Ghostbusters prominently displayed. They all have their own unique way about them. They all interact differently with all the characters, and I felt like each scenario was unique. I mean, you had the musician that was like catching things on fire. You had uh, human ghosts that look like aliens because of trauma, and then zombies like where like we'd even get as close as like throwing salt on the zombies to disrupt it, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, the
Uh,
salt to disrupt the magic.
yeah. So like all that's really cool. Um, Again, it just felt like maybe they could have spent a little bit more time in each of those places.
Hmm.
Yeah, just flesh that out a little bit, and then I'm perfectly happy.
Right.
So give me more of that. Don't rush me through that and do it a issue per story. Like that kind of works for cartoons. Sorry if you guys can hear Loki. He's kind of loud.
No, I just thought that was real cute. It's all good. He's just like, no, I agree with Dad. You listen.
But yeah, I don't know. That's where I was at. Um, I mean, if you do remember, I did text you guys that I did enjoy them, but it was like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, no doubt about that. It
eh,
you make a good point because like I and like the two of you actually because like I didn't think of the comics when I was kind of doing those. It was something very much where I was like, oh, like there's this like it's kind of like rinse and repeaty, but like maybe that's kind of what they were going for.
mhm,
But then when you make a point about the cartoon, it's like, oh shit, like that's what the cartoon would have done. And like I see the inspiration what they're taking, but also like I do agree with Ian too of like there's a couple of little sprinkles of bits that they put between the three issues where it led me enough to be like, okay, I really want to see what happens when they get back because there's two comments in particular that really was made me curious. The first was when like the Voodoo Queen gave that bag to Egon, and she was just like, "This is like for love or whatever," she said, and he was just like, "Oh, okay, whatever." Like he didn't really believe in it. But for Egon not being somebody who like only believes in science, he still put it in his pocket and he didn't get rid of it.
right.
And like that stuck with me because I was like, what is he doing? And then Venkman was the one that was like, okay, well, Egon, you thought us going across country would be really, really bad, but this wasn't too bad. Which I think is just Venkman being like, you should really knock on wood there, my guy.
Yeah,
So those are the two bits I curious. Like I know we're gonna get answers, but I'm curious to see what form those answers take.
absolutely fair. No, and I want to see how the author brings things together. Like,
Yeah, because once we like, I know that there's like a big that a lot of the first few issues that we've read was very much like the authors and the illustrators like they're getting their feet wet. They're dipping into the series. They're kind of like finding their own voice and like we're getting close on like the first big arc, I think.
cool. That's good to know. Like, I want to see these guys strut their stuff because I feel like
Yeah.
we've seen them tiptoeing at this point. It's time to pick it up.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm hopeful for too.
Absolutely. Um, yeah. No, I'm, I'm, I've been pleasantly surprised with all of the Ghostbuster comics so far, and you're slowly seeing them evolve the series. You know, I mean, they they already did in this one something. In these, I should say, not this one. They'll move the Ghostbusters from where they're comfortable, outside of New York. You know, so
Yeah.
uh,
But
yeah. Any final thoughts, Al, Shane? You guys seem to kind of dry a little here, so we're running out of stuff to say. I know I am.
good.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. The setup, the little tiny things. I feel like there was like that other team that we've been teased about. You know, um, all the little things seem to slowly be building. Yeah,
Hmm.
the references to pop culture as a whole have been like just really great. Or like catching some random undead people, like that's also been really fun. Cause like remember one issue there was someone with their head cut off. Like you're like what?
You know, it actually did remind me of something that kind of showed like them capturing the essence of these two characters. There's two moments that really struck out for me between like Venkman and Ray. And the first one was when Ray was just like, "Oh yeah, this is this place in Oregon," and he was just like, "How do you know this?" And he was just like, "Oh yeah, I just like to read." And Venkman just like stared at him for a second, and he goes, "We got to have a talk about you reading about fires. That's not healthy." And then like at the other time where he was just like, "Ray, how did you know that would work?" And he was just like, "Oh, I guessed." And there was a little like a pause panel, and he just smacked him because that totally would have happened in the movies.
So good.
So those two moments for me, it was just like, okay, this, yeah, like sometimes when you're reading a comic book, you get the feeling of like, oh, this is a comic, but like when you have those like humanizing moments like that, I really enjoy that shit.
Yeah, I understand that. I do too.
But that was my final thoughts.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the rest, Shane. But hopefully we're doing it next week.
Yeah, I don't see any issues on my end. I'll plan to get those uploaded and all set. Looking good on both your end as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Sweet.
nothing of any issue. Watch, I
Awesome.
say that now, and then I'll check my calendar after this and be like, oh wait. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening. If you're here, sorry for my
Yeah.
monotone voice. I'm a little tired tonight, but yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, well, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Take it easy, everybody. Thank you and see ya.